We are back this afternoon, and great to have you with us on your drive home from the office, or maybe you're going to another business meeting or some sort of mixer, or maybe you're going to work out. We wish you well, and we wish you prosperity, and we talk about that every week right here at the Gillespie Group Storefront Studio. Our small business people, our panelists for the Mid-Michigan Business Wrap, Scott Farragon from Cartridge World, Cheryl Freeborough from Hyundai of Lansing, Bob Hedlund from Hedlund Plumbing, and Craig Godfrey Weisberg, CPAs and advisors. This comes right into your wheelhouse, if I can, Craig Godfrey. This morning on the morning show, we talked to Congressman Fred Upton from West Michigan. He's a Republican, and the National Federation of Independent Business, that's the nation's small business association, the leading one, has named Congressman Upton a guardian of small business for his record in Congress. And I asked him, and I'm going to play the audio here for you if you can put your headphones on, what's on his mind these days? What message does he have? What is he hearing from small business people? Here's what he said.
The biggest issue, I think, impacting small business right now, something that really imperils them, and I was with a restaurant owner last night, member of the NFIB, is this provision in the health care bill. You probably know a little bit about it, talked about it, the 1099 issue, requirement that every business-to-business transaction that exceeds $600 during the course of a year, both businesses will have to file a separate 1099 with the IRS, including, of course, the employee identification number, the address, the amount, etc. And, I mean, you're talking, if you're going into a small newspaper or a restaurant, or you take a larger corporation, take AT&T. AT&T figures that they'll have to file 5 million of these 1099s over the course of the year. And, of course, it's the first step towards that VAT tax that Europe has. And this was in a little notice provision on page 737 of the gigantic health care bill that the president signed last March. And so businesses are fearful. They're fearful about regulation, about new taxes. Often they're a mom-and-pop organization, these NFIB groups, and it's like, where does this come from? My brother just left being a small businessman, doesn't want to start another small business because he's running the show and being responsible for all these new regulations and everything with the fines that are associated with them. It's just not worth it.
A mountain of red tape, it sounds like. And, the simple question that people would ask is, how does that end up in a health care bill? But that's how Washington works, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. What does it have to do with health care? And then the Senate tried to get it out, take him out as an amendment on a small business bill last month, and they couldn't get the required number of votes to even debate the issue. Talk about stupid.
Pretty frank talk there.
Very frank, and I totally agree. The record-keeping requirements are just getting so onerous that, it's just, it boggles the mind. In the Small Business Jobs Act, 2010 Small Business Jobs Act that was just passed, there's provisions for additional reporting through 1099 method also. So that's all in addition to the additional reporting that maybe some of our listeners know that's going to happen with the W-2 form also. That's going to now require that you include what the health insurance premiums that you pay for your staff are. And that's not that they're going to be taxed at this point. It's more informational for the purpose of information, but that could be coming down the pike here also. So we do have some good news. This 2010 Small Business Jobs Act was just passed, and there's many provisions in there that allow for additional depreciation. Also, a brand new provision that looks at some real estate expensing, more real estate related expensing that could help restaurants and those types of entities. So we do have some positives coming out of Washington. We do have some delays also. As many of our listeners may know, Congress did not make any decisions on some of the individual income tax changes here until after the election time period. So the
so-called Bush tax cuts.
That's exactly right. Now, what we hear is that those cuts will be extended, probably for at least 1 year, maybe 2.
For who?
That's going to be, the cuts the way they are right now.
Oh.
Now,
for everyone.
Right. Now, Congress is debating, this 200,000 for singles and 250 for joint
Yeah.
filers. So that may get into the law, but if they want to just pass something and have it done rather quickly, then they'll just keep things, exactly the way they are.
The president said yesterday that it doesn't make sense. Those are his words. Just doesn't make sense to extend the tax cuts to everyone.
Right. And so, if they just can't agree, though. We've got, the bipartisan issues. The Republicans don't want to, have that income level in there, and the Democrats maybe are okay with it. So if they want to get something passed here rather quickly, I mean, tax planning at this point in time is very challenging for, for our clients, for any taxpayers out there. The insurity is just enormous. So if they want to get something passed and have it done, then the quickest way would be to just keep everything the same way.
There are going to be a lot of people with their feet held to the fire on this one, it sounds like. Too bad it's happening after an election instead of in the months before.
That's right.
Because
exactly.
their feet could be really held to the fire.
That's right. Exactly.
Speaking of that, I want to ask you both all about this. The state job outlook looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. According to the University of Michigan, we're going to lose 20,000 jobs by the end of the year. Employment levels will start to rebound over the next 2 years, but the prediction is that the job growth is going to be a lot slower than what usually happens after a recession. You feel that way too?
Well, again, I would agree with that just because of the uncertainty and from the income tax side of things. So that would definitely be.
Well, I think to expand not only the income tax, but to expand on the health care. Businesses, we just don't know. And how do you budget when you have absolutely no idea what the future is when it comes to the basic things? Health care, providing or not to provide, or the plan should be categorized in the basic of business, as far as your general direction. But the way everything is changing so fast and the way the uncertainty, nobody knows what direction to go. So
you really don't want to add employees or anything.
You don't know where that money might be needed later.
Well, Scott, in your case too, though, I mean, you don't want to be buried under a huge pile of 1099s when you're trying to run a business, right?
Correct. Actually, I don't have any 1099 employees right now, but I don't understand what the added benefit of all the additional reporting is.
Yeah, can you explain that?
What are they concerned with?
Well, they're concerned with, they're just trying to clamp down on people to track these payments, or at least try to track these payments. Our concern is that right now the computer-generated notices that are coming out to our clients, it's just amazing what they're sending out. If somebody would just look at those, somebody at the IRS,
complicated,
they'd be they're just easily explainable. So now the client has to engage us to reply to this notice, and it's just I'll call it wasted energy for lack of a better term, but it's easily explainable. If somebody just would have looked at it, they could have adjusted their account in the computer, type of thing. So. In some cases, they just need some additional information, which is fine. We send that in, and it's, no big deal.
Congressman Upton talks about the value-added tax, the VAT tax that we have
right.
in Europe. He sort of foreshadowed that might be coming to the U.S. Can you explain to people what that is?
Yeah, that is one of the items that's kind of on the legislature's mind. And so as you buy services and products, probably more on the product side, then it's like a sale. Well, it is a sales tax.
An extra sales tax.
That's right. So in Michigan, we're all used to our 6% sales tax on many items, not all items. Food-type items at the grocery store, no. But the VAT tax at the national level would be
a federal
exactly
sales
that,
tax.
A federal sales tax, that's right.
But doesn't the VAT tax, it doesn't, what I've understood, it's not just at the end consumer buying at retail. A manufacturer manufactures a car. They pay a VAT tax on the steel every step along the way through the wholesale through, so you get all the steps. Is that the way it is, or is it only the end consumer?
Well, as I understand it, I do think that what they've talked about is at each stage. So
that's going to just
that's right.
B2B.
Yeah. I mean, you think about manufacturing. How many suppliers? The steel. I mean, not just the steel, but the total involvement of building and producing. They're trying to, at one side, say that we want manufacturing, production back in this country, but at the other time, they're cutting the legs off.
That's right.
Meanwhile, the New York Times, listen to this. As many households and small businesses are being turned away by bank loan officers, large corporations are borrowing vast sums of money for next to nothing just because they can. Companies like Microsoft are raising billions of dollars by issuing bonds at ultra-low interest rates, but few of them are actually spending the money on new factories, equipment, or jobs. Instead, they're stockpiling the cash until the economy improves. Dead silence from all this, from the small business people in this room.
That's interesting because I would think at some point they would try and leverage that cash as opposed to just sitting on it. Now, maybe they're borrowing it at such a low rate that
As well.
They've got so much that they can put into an investment that, like a mutual fund or a money market type fund, where they earn, more than what they're paying the bank on that borrowing. So, which is hard to believe.
And the bank's making money on the
Right.
interest they're earning, so
Right.
they're loaning money to companies that they know without a doubt are going to be able to pay it back.
Right.
So they're being picky about, just like we've had the problem with, they're being picky about who they loan it to instead of lending it to companies that may need it and can still be, we pay all our bills, and yet I have a real challenge being able to get my rolling line of credit. Every time I pay it down, it gets lowered to that level. So I have no rolling line of credit, and I've never missed a payment. In fact, we're paying way extra than we even need to pay, and yet I'm lowered all the time. Something's not fair with this situation.
Yeah, there's many instances of that nature.
Yes.
And investor real estate right now, the banks are not loaning at all,
Yeah.
basically. So, you have to be an owner-occupied.
So they're helping nobody by doing this.
Right.
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. We have a story of a man who is expanding his business, and he is right here in the studio with us, and we'll get
Good.
to that in 4 minutes. It's the
Good.
Mid-Michigan Business Wrap Afternoon Drive Edition. Glad to have you with us. Remember, every Wednesday morning from 9 till 10 in the Gillespie Group storefront studio, and then we're on in the evening, too, from 6 till 7 on Wednesdays here on WJIM AM 1240. I'm Michael Patrick Shields.